Hi, welcome to another edition of the Alan Rosenberg Show. I think about a week ago, one of our favorite viewers from New Orleans, David, sent me a request, and he said, "Hey Alan, how about doing a video on your top 10 favorite singer-songwriters?" And I'm like, you know what, David? Pretty cool idea. The only issue is a little bit tougher than I thought, because singer-songwriters is not so clear-cut all the time. Kind of like when I did that Southern Rock video recently. Some people sent me, they said you forgot this because they were rockers from the South. That is not what Southern rock is. That's a genre. And singer-songwriters to me is also a genre. But it does get kind of iffy, you know. So, frankly, it was my decision. My video, my decision on who I'm deciding is a singer-songwriter. But I think you're going to agree with me. Really, I think you're going to agree with me 100%. You know, because obviously Bob Dylan was a singer-songwriter, but he came much more. I think Neil Young is a singer-songwriter, but he also became much more. Some singer-songwriters really never left that genre, and there are people who kind of are singer-songwriters, like Bruce Springsteen, but he's definitely not a singer-songwriter. So, little caveat there, but you'll get the drift as I do the video. So I went through my database, and here are the runners-ups, the choices, to pick out the top 10 of my favorite singer-songwriters. So I got 27 nominations, and this is what it looks like. So these are the people that are singer-songwriters as far as I'm concerned in my collection. Joan Baez, I have 1 album. Jackson Browne, I have 5 albums. Harry Chapin, I got 2. Tracy Chapman, I got 3 albums, and one of them was a top 3 album of the year for me. Leonard Cohen's got 19 albums. Jim Croce, I got 1 album. Nick Drake, I got 5 albums. Bob Dylan, I got a whopping 90 albums exactly, and 4 of them were top 3 albums of the year for me. Dan Fogelberg's got a big one, 20 albums. Steve Forbert's got 3. Arlo Guthrie's got 1. There's a guy named Peter Himmelman, who you probably never heard of, but I'm a big fan of. As you can see, I got 16 albums, and one of them was actually a #1 album of the year for me in its year. Carole King got 4. Don McLean got 2. Melanie's got 8. Joni Mitchell's got a big one, 25 albums in my collection. Randy Newman's got 3. Laura Nyro's got 1. Pete Seeger's got 1. Paul Simon's got 15 albums, including 1 top 3 album. And Cat Stevens got 2 albums. Al Stewart, I got 9 albums. Chip Taylor, I got 1 album. James Taylor, I got 6. And Suzanne Vega got 3 albums. Michael Wendorf, a guy you probably never heard of, but I'm a fan of, got 3 albums. And Neil Young's got 34 albums, and he's had 2 top 3 albums for me. Top 3, at the end of every year since 1973, I picked the top 3 albums of the year for me based on play. So it's a really big deal, because if you're a guy like me who gets well over 100 albums a year, if you finish in the top 3, that's pretty significant. So there you have it, 27 artists that are singer-songwriters as far as I'm concerned in my collection. That's over 5,000 plus albums. Who, David, are the top 10? How did I choose them? The same way I like to choose in reality. It's not about figuring it out and analyzation, which I did do, but it's about play. Who do I get the most albums, the ones I play the most? Those are the favorite ones. It's as simple as that. So here we go at number 10, and that is going to be Nick Drake. And I am not going to show you all the albums I have, obviously. Bob Dylan's got 90, Neil Young's got 34, Joni Mitchell's got 25. So I can't show you all of the albums unless I do a video on them one day. But here are Nick Drake's 3 solo records. And you got 5 Leaves Left, and these are the ones with the slipcases, really nice. Brighter Later, and Pink Moon. And probably just like everybody else, I never heard of Nick Drake when he was around. Very few people have, very few honest people have, but I got into him well after the fact. I have 5 Nick Drake albums, and he is my number 10 favorite singer-songwriter. And that is definitely going to fall down, David, and you are a fan of that, but I don't really feel like that happening, so let's stick that like that. He's at number 10. At number 9, all-time favorite singer-songwriter, that for me is going to be Jackson Browne. And I only have 5 Jackson Browne albums. Actually, I have 6, because I bought another one today, but it's not in my database. So, but certainly my favorite Jackson Browne album are, they would be The Pretender, which is a really fine album. My favorite by far is Running on Empty, and this is a deluxe edition. And that's the one, I remember when the Pretender came out, but Running on Empty, like everybody at that time, I got that when it came out, and it is just an extraordinarily great album. And that's still my go-to Jackson Browne album. Lives on the Balance is an excellent latter-day one. I find his career kind of spotty. And if you want to get to Jackson Browne, get Running on Empty, but you can get this is a double very best of Jackson Browne, and that is an excellent collection. His first album is really good too, but Running on Empty is by far my favorite Jackson Browne album, and he is my number 9 favorite singer-songwriter. At number 8 is a guy you probably never heard of, but that's Peter Himmelman, and I think he's a really good talent, and I became a fan. I discovered him. He opened up for the Kinks at the Beacon Theater in New York in the late 80s. Never heard of him, and I was blown away how good he was. Bought his vinyl album, and then every time he released a CD, I got it. My friend Sandy and him was there as well. He also became a fan. And I have 16 albums by Peter Himmelman. I'm going to show you my favorite ones. Is this one called Gematria, which is a fine record. Waning Moon is a great track. My favorite album, well, this is another one called Synesthesia, and that is an excellent album as well. So he's got a lot of tracks on his album, so they're not like perfect albums, but they all have really good songs on them. My favorite one, if you did want to experiment with him and you wanted to get not like a best of, but a real album, this is From Strength to Strength, and this is the Peter Himmelman album that, for me, was the top 3 album in its year, and this is a terrific, terrific album, I think, From Strength to Strength from Peter Himmelman. And then this is a collection called Mission of My Soul, the best of Peter Himmelman. Like most people who are fans of an artist, I never listened to this album, but yeah, I guess if you never heard of him, this might be a really good place to start. There's a song that's not on here that you should, if you want to check out Peter Himmelman from his very first album, there's a song called Tremble. And you'll like that one. Guaranteed you'll like Tremble. It's a good little rocker. Anyway, From Strength to Strength is my favorite Peter Himmelman album. And he is my number 8 all-time favorite singer-songwriter. All right, let's keep going. At number 7 is Al Stewart. And I have 9 Al Stewart albums and growing. I've become a bigger and bigger fan over the years. I actually saw him in concert this year or last year, and it was amazing. Absolutely amazing. I think I did a review of that concert. Anyway, my favorite albums by him would be Past, Present, and Future, that great cover from Hypnosis. I mean, Modern Times is another excellent album. I think Hypnosis did the cover on that album as well. And of course, you got Year of the Cat. And I'm still debating if I should get those big reissues. Time Passages, another really fine album that I like. They did a reissue of that. And if you want to get into Al Stewart, if you don't have any of his albums, this is the one I would tell you to get. In fact, this was one of the first ones I ever got. And this is Songs from the Radio, the best of Al Stewart. And this is a single disc. And it's phenomenal. I mean, get this. If you don't like that, there's no way you're going to like Al Stewart. If you like that and you want to go deeper, there's like the Definitive Pop Collection, which is a really stupid name because he's not a pop artist at all. But that's got a lot more tracks. But certainly, I guess if I had to choose my favorite Al Stewart album, I'm not trying to be contrarian. I would probably say Year of the Cat, if only because the title track alone, I think, is one of the greatest songs of all time. So there you go, Al Stewart. And he is at number 7. At number 6 is a guy I discovered because my sister was a big fan when I was growing up. And so she had Home Free, his first album. And I grew up listening to that. This is like a cheap collection that's got all 3 of his first 3 albums. I don't like these collections, so I actually bought all 3 albums on CD on top of this. That's how nutty I am. But there you go. His first 3 albums were Home Free and Souvenirs and Captured Angel, which are all really, really fine records. And he's really good, I'm telling you. Netherlands, Another really excellent record. Phoenix. If you're sitting there thinking that Dan Fogelberg is wussy, go put on Face the Fire from this album. Put your stereo on loud and put Face the Fire. You'll be playing air guitar and calling me up to thank me. The big epic album was The Innocent Age. Amazing record, a lot of hits on that, but it is a great album. And if you want to go deep, I mean, there are greatest hits Dan Fogelberg albums, there's live ones, but this is a really cool, this is a box set called Portrait, and this is 4 discs, and instead of in chronological order, each disc with a thick book, each disc is a different genre of music within Fogelberg's, portfolio, because he does everything. I am a big fan of Dan Fogelberg. I think he's a phenomenal artist and sorely missed, so we're going to put Portrait up there. But yeah, he's great, and he is my number 6. At number 5 is the late, great Leonard Cohen. And in fact, I got a comment just about an hour ago from one of the viewers who mentioned when albums that came out when somebody was deceased, and like the David Bowie one, they were talking about the Black Star that I think is an overrated album. They said they also agreed that it was overrated, and the last Leonard Cohen album was so amazing, You Want It Darker, which I'm not showing here, but there was a great point from her, because that is an extraordinarily great posthumous album. But Leonard Cohen, I have 19 albums, and I'm a fan. I love these reissues of his early albums with hard cases and beautiful booklets with lyrics, and yeah, not like the big lyric guy, and with Leonard Cohen, that's what you want, but these are just so magnificent, these original album reproductions. So these are my favorite Leonard Cohen albums, Songs of Leonard Cohen, Songs of Love and Hate, and you can see these are like these really hardcover, album reproductions. These are amazing. But the thing with Leonard Cohen is his latter-day albums are amazing. I actually kind of rediscovered him because that movie, the one with Woody Harrelson, that Psycho movie. Oh, God, I'm drawing a blank. But they used a lot of his latter-day music, and it was amazing. But, like, I'm Your Man, these are great, great latter-day albums. I actually listen to the latter-day albums more. The Future, is another great album. These are just terrific latter-day albums. Where he really excels, shockingly, is at the very near the end of his career. He did these big tours. And I will never forgive myself for not going to see him at Madison Square Garden. I couldn't believe he was playing Madison Square Garden, but he was playing with a really big band, and that was these tours like Live in London, and there's other ones as well. And these concerts are absolutely spellbinding on DVD or on CD, and they cover his whole career. And I'll never forgive myself for not seeing him when he was alive, when he did those shows. You could also check out like the best ofs. This is the Essential, and these are fantastic as well. They cover his whole career. Leonard Cohen, I am a big fan of, and he is my number 5 favorite singer-songwriter of all time. And I'm going to put this live one because, believe it or not, that's the ones that I go to. Great stuff. Number 4 favorite singer-songwriters of all time. We're going to go with Paul Simon. And we are not talking Simon and Garfunkel. That is not included. That's a band. This is Paul Simon. Of course, he wrote the songs for Simon and Garfunkel. I know that. But no, we're talking about Paul Simon strictly solo here. So let's look at his career. I have 15 albums. One of them, he's had one top 3 album of the year for me. So this was his. These are really nice too, these remastered reissues. These are really nice. This was his debut album. And then you got There Goes Rhymin' Simon. I'm showing you my favorites. These are great, great albums, solo records. Still crazy after all these years. I remember when he was on Saturday Night Live, he did that song wearing a chicken costume, if I remember right. So he's good friends with Lorne Michaels. Graceland, that's the one that went top 3, and I still listen to Graceland. It's an incredible album, and I'm certainly not jumping on a bandwagon. I know it won all the awards. It deserves it. It's an incredible record. Paul Simon's got tons of compilations, both Simon and Garfunkel and solo. But this is a good one. Negotiations and Love Songs. Even his first one, what was that? Greatest Hits, etc. or something. Man, that was my go-to in college. I had an 8-track, and whenever I studied, I used to listen to Paul Simon and Simon and Garfunkel. This is a good one, The Essential, which is like a 3-disc collection. I have lots of Paul Simon. This is a two CDs and a DVDs. This, but yeah, I think the best Paul Simon record. Be honest with you, and I'm always honest. I'm gonna go with Graceland. Amazing record. All right, he's my number 4. At number 3, there she is. My number 3 favorite of singer-songwriter of all time is gonna be Joni Mitchell, and I, excuse me, I have 25 albums by Joni. She's never had a top 3 album for me, but you know, I guess to a certain extent, her best stuff was earlier, so I got it retrospectively. Blue, really famous record. I have a couple of copies of this. Amazing when you look at the track listing, the songs really are incredible. I don't listen to Blue that much. It's the funny part, but it's certainly not overrated. I discovered Joni Mitchell through my sister, who had Court and Spark. And Court and Spark is probably still my favorite studio record from Joni Mitchell. This is an incredible album. I know critics always pick Blue, but sorry, I think Court and Spark is superior. But Blue's amazing too, so it's not like Blue's not great. There's Court and Spark. One of my favorite Joni Mitchell albums is this one, the live album, Miles of Aisles, which is Joni Mitchell live with the LA Express with Tom Scott. And that is a phenomenal, phenomenal live record. One of my favorites, Shadows and Light, is a great double live record. Much latter day in her career, and she had like Pat Metheny in the band, and Jaco Pastorius was like jazzy from Mingus time period. Sorry guys, live video and I'm choking. But Shadows and Light is amazing, and I have a Laserdisc of that. Woo, what a concert. Fantastic. Now, shockingly, maybe my most played Joni Mitchell album now is this one called Wild Things Run Fast, one of her latter-day albums. I'm a fan of her latter-day albums. They're really good. Even Dog Eat Dog is an experimental electronic kind of album, but that's a really good one. Chalk Mark and a Rainstorm's a great one. Night Ride Home's really good. But Wild Things Run Fast, man, I love this album. And perhaps I love it so much because I saw that tour. So that always helps. But man, Chinese Cafe, Unchained Melody, Wild Things Run Fast. This album, You Dream Flat Tires, Underneath the Streetlight, a cover of You're So Square Baby, I Don't Care. This is a great album. If you don't know Joni Mitchell, you may want to try this one because it's got a good variation of songs. And as always, Joni never wanted hits collections. Now she's got 1 million of them. But that's okay. This is hits, this is misses. But she also has a whole bunch of thematic type of hit albums that she's put out. Dreamland, I have a bunch of them, which are nice, deeper cuts. But these are great, so definitely check out Hits and Misses. If you want to try a studio album, you know, I think Court and Spark is the best, but I'm going to go, for me, with the Dark Horse, because I love Wild Things Must Pass. So she's number 3. Who's the number 2 of my favorite of all-time singer-songwriters? That's going to be Neil Young. I know he's much past at this point singer-songwriter, and somebody might say, well, why don't you have David Crosby or Stephen Stills? But they're not even in his league, and I love Graham Nash as well, but he's not in this league either. So, and I don't really think of them as singer-songwriters, not like Neil Young. Neil Young, I have 34 albums. He's had 2 albums that finished in the top 3. I discovered him when I was a little kid because my sister had After the Gold Rush, and that is a perfect album for sure. And I still play it to this day. And Harvest was a great album that followed up on that. Amazing. You know, I remember being in camp and we used to sing Neil Young songs, Old Man, Down by the River. I used to jam to that on the drums. Cowgirl in the Sand. You know, yeah, Neil Young is just way beyond Crosby, Stills, and Nash and Young. 1978 was a big year for me for Neil Young, and he put out Comes a Time. And I think to a certain extent this is a forgotten album. This was one of the top 3 albums for me. I love this album, played it to death. Amazing record. Amazing record. 1979, he put out Rust Never Sleeps. huge album, amazing, and I actually saw the tour. And I think Live Rust is one of the greatest live albums of all time. And I was able to relive the tour by seeing the movie and getting the live album. And this is an amazing album of a great concert. And Freedom, that was another top 3 album for me. Another amazing album. Kind of reminiscent of Rust Never Sleeps, where you got the acoustic and the electric version of Rockin' in the Free World. And the rest of it, this is an amazing, amazing album. And the first album that I ever owned, besides After the Gold Rush from my sister, was Decade. And that was a triple album back in the day when triple albums didn't really exist much. And this is a great collection. Of course, we have it as a 2 CD version now, but that was originally a triple vinyl. So there you have Neil Young. Amazing performer. The only problem with Neil Young, he just puts out too much stuff. And I respect it because he wants to put it out while he's still alive, but some quality control issues of his latter day stuff. But I'm going to put Freedom up there because that was such an amazing latter day smash for me. So he's my number 2. Who's my number 1 favorite singer-songwriter of all time? Well, nobody comes close to me, to Bob Dylan. I have 90 albums. He's had 4 top 3 albums. I have all of his albums, I think, all the bootleg ones. Yeah, I pretty much have bootlegs as well. I think he's amazing. Retroactively or retrospectively is when I picked up Blood on the Tracks. That came out in the early 70s. I didn't get that at the time. I'm thrilled because they redid his albums as SACDs, which is what I have, and they sound so good. But, Blood on the Tracks, I don't have to sell you on that album. And Desire, which has got, Hurricane and One More Cup of Coffee and Black Diamond Bay. Everybody forgets how great that one is. Another great album. And then where I really started hearing Neil Young, Bob Dylan, when it was coming out, was Street Legal in 1978. The album did not get great reviews. He did the tour that later came out on Budokan, which I actually really enjoyed. This album took a while to really sink in. I know it came out around the same time as Some Girls, and Some Girls was so great and so big. And this album kind of threw me in 78, but I bought it when it came out. But I remember Changing the Guards, even from the first time I heard it, I was like, that is one of the all-time greatest songs, and Is Your Love in Vain is great. And Senior, Tales of Yankee Power, to this day, and back then, was one of my favorite songs of all time. What really grabbed me for Bob Dylan the first time was, believe it or not, was Slow Train Coming in 1979. And I got that the week it came out. And of course, he was getting a lot of controversy, Jewish guy, maybe converting to Christianity and all of that. And I that's his personal business. Didn't make a difference in my life, and God bless him for what he wanted to do. I was strictly approaching this stuff from the songs, and I thought the songs on Slow Train Coming, and still do, were incredible, and loved it. In fact, I enjoyed Saved after this. I didn't think Saved was nearly as good as this, but it was still good. And Shout of Love after that was real good too. Infidels is still my number 1 go-to Dylan album. I've talked about this in the past, and it is still my favorite, lack of a better word, my favorite Dylan album is Infidels. I just think it's amazing. Joker Man and Sweetheart Like You and License to Kill and Don't Fall Apart on Me Tonight and Neighborhood Bully, one of the most powerful songs about Israel ever written. And we're going to talk about his latter-day career. He's put out some mighty great stuff, especially this one, Time Out of Mind, which when that album came out, I played that. I was like, wow, is that great? Problem with Dylan is that the critics trip over themselves to say that everything he does is the greatest, and it's not, because if everything's 5 stars, nothing is 5 stars. This is amazing. In fact, I thought Modern Times was really great also. That was another latter-day one that was really, really strong, but not as strong as that. You want to get into Dylan, there's a million compilations, and I have a million. There's single discs and double discs and the essential, but this red one is a triple one. And this is kind of a cool collection just called Dylan. And there's a single disc version. There might even be a double disc version. I don't remember. But this is a really great one. I got into Dylan, really, my sister had the original Greatest Hits album, which then I got. And then my first Dylan purchase was through Columbia House Record Club. I got the double vinyl of Greatest Hits Volume 2. So there you go. But, and then I got into Street Legal and Slow Train Coming when it first came out. So Bob Dylan, my number one all-time favorite singer-songwriter, and 90 albums, 4 top 3 albums for me, and Bob Dylan right there. So there you go, David and everybody else. Hope you enjoyed this methodical 25 minutes in, give or take. Top 10 favorite singer-songwriters. There you have it right there. If you want to take a close look. There you go. Again, number 10, Nick Drake. Number 9, Jackson Browne. Number 8, Peter Himmelman. Number 7, Al Stewart. Number 6, Dan Fogelberg. Number 5, Leonard Cohen. Number 4, Paul Simon. Number 3, Joni Mitchell. Number 2, Neil Young. Number 1, Bob Dylan. Let me know your choices. What do you think? Pretty methodical. No exaggeration. Got my fish in the background. Hope you enjoyed this. Hope you had a great weekend. I appreciate you watching my channel. Let me know your thoughts. If you're new to my channel, hit subscribe. Would really help me. I'm doing this thing 4 years, got 300 something videos. I don't know. I think it's good quality work. I hope you agree, but I would definitely like my channel to grow. Plus, you get notification of my new videos, and there's going to be plenty more coming, of course. So, thanks again. Have a great night. Stay safe, stay healthy, and I will see you next time on the Alan Rosenberg Show.